to the national stage in the final five. As GOP hopeful John Kasich says,
it's all about the delegates.
Indeed it is. That's why Donald Trump is furious over the outcome of Colorado's contest, which awarded Ted Cruz all the state's delegates. And he's letting everyone know about it.
Today, winning votes doesn't mean anything. We've got a corrupt system. It's not right. We're supposed to be a democracy. We're supposed to be, you vote and the vote means something, all right?
All right, but as far as his opponent is concerned, the people are getting what they want.
The people voted against him, and in the past 3 weeks, we've beaten Donald Trump in 11 straight elections in 4 different states. Republicans are unifying behind our campaign because we want a positive, optimistic, forward-looking, conservative campaign.
Will it ever end? Joining me to discuss are Joan Venaki, columnist of the Boston Globe, Heather Cox Richardson, a professor at BC and author of To Make Men Free, A History of the Republican Party. Nice to meet you. It was nice to see you, Joan, too, but I know you. And Kyle Claus, writer for Boston Magazine. Kyle, good to see you, too. You know, I wasn't going to start this way until someone told me what you said on our radio station the last few days. This is the most important election since 1896, if not 1860. Why?
Because this is the moment where Americans decide what the future is going to be and whether, in fact, we're going to go back to that old-fashioned kind of language and world where elites control the country, or whether we're going to have a democracy again, which we really are working ourselves a way out of.
And that hasn't happened in more than 100 years, that sort of dynamic?
You could argue for 1912. You could maybe argue for 1932, but 1896 and 1860, we look a lot right now like 1860.
I'd argue for 1912, but I have no idea who is running in that election, so I can't. Either of you want to quarrel with that? I hope not.
No, I'm not arguing with the professor.
How do you explain this Trump? You know, I have been one all along, John, who said he's going to keep moving. The abortion thing to me was the end. Put up the numbers in New York if you can. Look at this, 60% to 17 to 14. How do you explain that nothing stops this guy? In fact, his numbers are growing.
The people love him.
But why?
Why? Because he tells it like it is. I mean, take whatever bromide you want.
Were you surprised at all, either starting with you, Colin, are you surprised at all that this one didn't at least cause some sort of dip? The thing with Chris Matthews a couple of weeks ago about a crime if a woman has an abortion?
No, because I think a lot of the outrage that was out there was on Twitter, and a very small percentage of people are on Twitter. And the people who are supporting Trump aren't there. They aren't on the internet. They're watching the evening news, and it passes. They have very short-term memory.
Pro-choice people were outraged. Pro-life people said that they were outraged too, that they didn't want the woman to be, victimized in this sort of thing. So you're going to make it unanimous? You're not surprised?
No, but what Trump does, no, I'm not surprised, but what Trump has done is he's managed to link into the language of movement conservatism that says it's us versus them, and he is insisting that he is going to take the country back for us.
But it's not just movement conservatism, it's populism, isn't it? I mean, people on the left, isn't that what I'm tired he keeps saying this. It's a variation of what Bernie Sanders is doing, just with a totally different outcome.
Both of them are standing against the establishment for sure, but they're doing it in very different ways. But what Trump is promising his supporters is that he can make the dream that they had come true. And if it means that he's going to put women in jail, if it means he's going to put up the wall, if it means he's going to deport Muslims, he's there.
You're getting closer to him. You're inching closer. What do you want to say, Jim?
I think it also says a lot about the lack of power of today's media. So Chris Matthews asks him a question. He gives an answer. The media gets in an uproar. The particular groups, do what they always do. And the people out there that you're talking about shrug. They don't care. It's like an impotence.
Speaking of the media and being relatively powerless, what all of us pray for is this open convention that we talk about nonstop. First of all, let's play. The guy who's allegedly going to parachute in and become the nominee said today he's not interested in the job. Here's Speaker Paul Ryan.
Let me be clear. I do not want, nor will I accept the nomination for our party. Count me out. I simply believe that if you want to be the nominee for our party, to be the president, you should actually run for it.
Okay, you heard him count me out, which is exactly what he said about the speakership just a few months ago. Here he is then.
Are you running for speaker?
I'm not.
Why not?
Because I don't want to be speaker.
Well, who do you think will be
It's a good job for an empty nester.
He doesn't want to be speaker, he doesn't want to be president. But this notion that anybody besides Cruz or Trump, regardless of whether Trump gets to the magic 1237, it's preposterous, isn't it? The notion that all these primaries and caucuses happen and the establishment, the elite, whoever they are, is going to anoint somebody else. That's not even possible, is it?
And it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy
Meaning
for
what?
Trump, that Trump has campaigned all this whole season on the fact that that it's rigged, that we have a broken system, that the establishment is
It
pulling
is
the
rigged,
strings.
disgusting, and dirty, was the quote today.
And now those same rigged, disgusting, and dirty people are going to steal the nomination from him. That's how he'll portray it to his base, and I think it'll be received very well.
And you're the historian. I think it was 1492 we last had an open convention.
No,
Give me-
that's not true.
Okay.
Traditionally, conventions are open. It's only really since the 1970s that they have not been. Traditionally, they've been contested. You were supposed to have smoke-filled rooms.
But
But that's 2 generations ago.
And is it realistic to think that somebody who hasn't even run could end up being the nominee of this party without a revolt amongst its members?
Not today. Of course, in the 19th century, it was common. That's how you got James Garfield. That's how you got people nobody had ever heard of. They did parachute in. But nowadays, since the 1970s, there is the idea that primaries matter.
Let's move to the Democratic side if we can. You've written a lot about the Clintons a few thousand times in your career. Here's Bill Clinton the other day. There's some Black Lives Matter protesters, and here is what the former president and husband of the candidate had to say to them.
I don't know how you would characterize the gang leaders who got 13-year-old kids hopped up on crack and sent them out onto the street to murder other African-American children. You are defending the people who kill the lives you say matter. Tell the truth.
He said he regretted it the next day. The firewall for Hillary Clinton, everybody knows in this election, African Americans, 80, 90% with very few exceptions vote. Does this hurt her? Or is the sin, if there is one, visited just on her husband?
Are you like giving me a trick question? Yes,
No, really. Does this have any impact? Does this put a dent in that?
I think it does hurt her. And I wrote it when he was campaigning in New Hampshire that she should lock him in a closet. I think this week someone wrote that he should be fired. And you know, I personally think that he really doesn't want her to be president.
Does he? Michelle Alexander wrote this condemnation of much of what Bill Clinton did during his presidency and tried to visit some of the sins of the husband on the wife. Many people thought unfairly. But does this hurt her when he's out as her surrogate? And by the way, what he was doing there was defending her using the term super predator to describe some of these people who were locked up, them and young black people really objected. Does this hurt her?
Well, here's what I'd ask and what I wonder about is when I heard that and when I heard her talk earlier about Reconstruction, when she equally put her foot in her mouth, was it seems to me that's an attempt to move the white voters, the moderate white Republicans in the border states and Upper South. That's what I heard.
I wondered if he was, you know, trying to have another Sister Soldier
Exactly,
moment.
which is
I
what...
mean, did he do it deliberately? If he did, he sort of took it to an extreme. I mean, usually Bill Clinton does things with a kind of a smile on his face or biting his lip. He just seemed angry there. It didn't, to me, it didn't seem like it worked
Does
well.
it hurt her?
Well, I think the Clintons' courtship of the African American community has always been disingenuous in a way. It always struck me as they were just another demographic to check off. And look no further than just the appearance with the New York Mayor Bill de Blasio, with the cast of Hamilton, and right on stage they're making a joke about colored people time.
CP, right.
I mean,
CP
I
time.
was uncomfortable watching it. I can't even imagine how the people in the room felt. But I mean, how could that go by 2 stabs and no one raised the red flag?
You know, before you guys go, I want to come back locally just for a second, talk about the GOP, but in the face our governor. Our governor was disinvited as an honoree from, the story was reported in your paper, Joan, to the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, in part because he was going to Las Vegas to an event with this Reverend Hagee, who's the Holocaust denier to a degree and bad on gay marriage, and in part because he hasn't supported yet the transgender bill that's in the legislature. This guy had an openly gay running mate in 2010, Richard Tassay, is the only governor who I think has done an executive order to target vending contracts state contracts to gay, lesbian, LGBT families, and he's the only Republican governor that filed an amicus in the marriage equality case. Was this reasonable? He said it was petty, partisan, and unfortunate. Is he right?
Well, that same group had honored Baker for some contracting decision he'd made with the state. I kind of wondered if it was a little bit of a shot fired by Joe Kennedy, because he pulled out and said that he didn't want to be part of this honoring of Baker. And I just wondered if it was a little bit of positioning by Kennedy to maybe take on Baker for governor.
One of
or
Kennedy's
just-
people
or-
subsequently told me he didn't tell them that they had decided to pull it before Joe Kennedy said, I don't want to be on the thing. Very quickly, what do you make of this thing? Petty, partisan, unfortunate, or legit?
Well, there's a problem in Massachusetts for the Democrats who need to separate themselves from a Republican who is very clearly, to my mind, positioning himself to be the 2020 candidate by regaining the territory that people like Eisenhower stood on. It's a very powerful position, and they've got to find ways to put some space between
And
them.
isn't the best way to position, we only have 10 seconds left, to put the bill on his desk and either have him sign it or veto it?
What are you waiting for?
Thank you very much. Jonas, nice to see you. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thanks so much. And good to see you too, Kyle. Be well.